In today's video, I am going to be breaking down the Detroit Pistons back when they were the Bad Boy Pistons because their defense was insane. There's a reason why every team that I coach is usually higher in fouls. It's because we make good fouls on defense. If we are not out fouling the other team, we're not playing hard enough on defense. So let's get down, let's check this out and see what they do extremely well. In today's video, I am going to be breaking down the Detroit Pistons back. Gotten that pass cutting baseline. There is 1, 2, and 3 defenders collapsing in on him and going up to make sure that they do not get, or he does not get, that basket. Now, that referee called a foul, but do we see many fouls here? It's a lot of ball contact, a lot of arm contact. I can see the foul, especially today, and he definitely did not like that. Also, these post 2-point kick-out passes were deflected a lot. Why is that? Well, if we see where this man was actually playing before, he was playing quite deep into the key. They were making sure that he was unable to get to the basket. When he made that kick-out pass, instead of trying to disrupt that pass halfway through where so many players make that mistake, the Detroit Pistons aimed to disrupt that pass where that offensive player would be catching the ball. They would get their hand where that player was about to catch it and tip it free, and that's exactly what you need to do to get yourself some easy baskets. So again, do not try to disrupt the pass halfway through or even 2/3 of the way through. Disrupt that pass where it's being caught. That way you can tip it away and go all the way down. In fact, this is what my girls' team has done so well this season so far on defense, and why we shut down a team to 4 points in 1/2. The Detroit Pistons also kept their hands in the passing lanes. They kept their hands up so that they were able to keep those hands in passing lanes to disrupt those passes. And then when they made that steal, instead of dribbling right away, what does he do? He keeps his head up and looks for the outlet down court so they can transition from defense to offense and again get some easy baskets. Now, yes, while they did hack away at arms anytime that players were attacking the rim, well, guess what? Even in today's game, this player brought that ball way too low. A lot of the times, especially up in Canada, if you bring the ball down low, I was told by a referee when I complained that if it's below your waist, they will say you're out of control. They won't call the foul in many cases. However, this man got the foul call because, of course, he hacked way too high. He should have hacked earlier when the ball was down here. Not too sure in the States if they would call that a foul if he was to hack arms when the ball is down by his waist. But up here in Canada, a lot of the times, and I've complained a lot to referees that they say if the ball's below your waist, you're out of control, which means we don't call it. Now, this next one is a very hard foul. He was able to go for that ball, and even in today's game, as long as you go for the ball, they generally don't call you for an intentional foul or a technical foul or whatever they want to call you for. But the body contact was there, which is why they called the foul here, and it would be called in today's game as well because he jumped into the man. But if instead of that happening, if he was to cut this man off earlier and jump straight up and not bring his arms down as he did here to try to block that shot, but instead if he was to get in front and cut off this man's path and either take a charge or jump straight up into the air keeping his arms straight up, it would have been actually a charge on this man. I know, because I used to do that a lot. But see, back in the day, back in the late 80s and early 90s, making body contact was something that you wanted to do to these players so that they would not drive to the rim. You wanted to make them not want to get to the rim so that they had to be forced to shoot shots. How these guys were called the Bad Boy Pistons is because of small little checks like this, because they wanted to take cheap shots on some of the better players in the game. See, you get into their head, and that player is going to either run away or be like Larry Bird and fight. So in today's game, this is not allowed, but you're still allowed to fight in the post, but just not like this. So first off, in today's game, you're not allowed to put your arm in front and through the arms of the offensive player. You're not allowed to do that. He's trying to do this to disrupt passes into Larry Bird. However, Larry Bird then does something that I probably would have done, which is lock the guy's arm in between my body and my arm so that it teaches him not to do that. And then, of course, something that Larry Bird does because he's, again, an older 80s player, he tries to break the guy's arm off, which obviously Rodman didn't like. Neither did the referee, but this is the type of game back then. You can't do this today, but what you can do in the low post is what and how he started, which is this. If you can keep both of your arms like this, and you can get your hips into the hips of your offensive player, you can move them out of the key. What you cannot do is to reach through their body, push on their body, get your foot between their foot and lift them up. Things that you could do in the 80s, you can't do today, but you can use your actual torso, your body, to be able to remove them from the key. So while we can take lessons from the 80s and 90s defenders who were the Detroit Pistons bad boys, we can't do some of the stuff that they did back then, but we can modify it so that we can still play aggressive. We have to remember that if you're a good defensive team, you're going to run up the fouls. That's just how it happens. And a lot of the times with the referees, what happens is some referees don't want to foul out players because they want those players to play. And some referees, and actually I should say a lot of referees, will actually start calling less fouls because that's just how you play. And they don't want to call you for everything because they want the game to go fast. These referees sometimes, especially in some of the leagues up here in Canada, want the game done in an hour. They don't want the game to last an hour and a half or an hour 45. And by playing like this the entire game, it's going to drag that game on and make it long. The referees don't want that, so they're going to start letting you play. That's when technical fouls start happening and fights and things like that. But if we can play just a bit more aggressive on defense and not allow the other team to score, or at least make it really hard for them to score, then your offense will eventually come around because you're going to get that steal. And that defense to offense transition to get some layups is very handy to win games. I hope that you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys again next time. Make sure to go check out my Unbeatable Basketball Zone defense down in the description below.